Hello everyone and welcome to our penultimate live stream. We've done 24, 25 of these, unbelievable really, which tells you how close we're getting to things. So please say hello in the comments, introduce yourself so I can welcome you warmly. Let me know if the sound is working okay today. I've got a slightly different setup, so hopefully you can all hear me clearly. It looks like it's coming through okay anyway. So today we're looking at compression, and this is the one that I sort of didn't do, I guess going back about 4 months or so. Hi Aditya, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. So let's do a quick quiz time rewind before we get started. And greetings to you, Elvin. I like the hat, very nice. So let's have a look at some past. This is actually, I think you probably saw some of these a few months ago because I've been sort of generally going back over the previous quiz. But let's see, this is going back to the very start. Hi Bogdan, how you doing? Is the sound okay, guys? Can you hear me quite clearly today? Let me know if not. I've got a sort of console to muck around with here. Aditya, no messing around at all. Stores address where data will be read. PC, interesting. Do we think that is the case? I'll give you a couple more seconds. Stores address where data will be read. Well, I guess that the answer is that you're right in the sense the PC holds the address, but of course the fact that it will be read, that means that it's the MAR, the memory address register, rather than the PC. So they often describe the PC as pointing to the next instruction. Yeah. So they talk about the PC as pointing to the location of the next instruction, whereas the address where it's going to be read, as in used during the instruction, that's more the MAR. And of course the same for the MDR, that's where the data will be read from. Okay, so but definitely along the right tracks there. So what about this one? What is meant by bit depth? A bit of a long rewind here. And I fancy there's going to be quite a good deal on this in the exam in a couple of weeks' time. So what about this? What's meant by bit depth? So Aditya's coming in with a C. He reckons it's the number of bits used to store each sound sample. Flynn, how are you, dear man? We've got a B for Flynn. We've got a C for Bogdan. There's been a divergence of opinion here. Elvin's going for a B. Shall we see where we are? The answer, ladies and gentlemen, is C. It's the number of bits used to store the sound sample, and that's meant by bit depth. So it's about the quality in terms of the quality, the amount of information that's stored. And obviously, one of the things they'll try and get from you is that if you increase the bit depth, or if you increase the sample rate, the file size will increase, but also the recording will be closer to the original. It'll be of a higher quality. Okay, so that's what they're looking to get out of you there. All right. So I think most of you were there for this one. How many characters does ASCII include? There's only so many of these questions on ASCII they can ask you. They've left this in. Yeah, exactly. More bits, larger file size. Exactly. And that's what they're going to make sure that you understand. Bigger file size, and it's closer to the original. Okay, it's more faithful to the original. Because Wi-Fi stands for wireless fidelity. It's that fidelity. It's the how close it's to the original. So let's have a look. Aditya said C, I think, for this one. Bogdan said A. Elvin said A. That C may have been a previous one, Aditya. I might be doing you wrong here. A little harsh, but welcome. I think you need more evidence about my mama to be sure about that. Emad, how you doing? Good to see you, old boy. Okay, he misread it as Unicode. Emad's gone for A here. Should we see where we are? So the answer is 256. I fancy they'll ask you that one. There's so little they can ask you about ASCII. And the other thing is, it is the characters that a computer is able to represent. That's what you need to learn off by heart. That's what they are looking for. Yeah, absolutely. Unicode, more characters, okay? So what's it all about? We're sort of going back into the depth, the beginning of this syllabus almost, to look at memory and storage. And the part we're looking at is compression. Now they do like a bit of a question on lossy and lossless, and I'll get to this in a minute, but that's horribly pixelated. I can't believe I'm a teacher. That's dreadful. So they need you to understand that analog sounds are stored in binary, and this entire unit really is every single part of it encourages you to understand that anything on a computer has to be stored in binary, whether it's images, whether it's video, whether it's text, or whether it's well, of course, images are video is just moving images with sound, isn't it? Whether it's sound, it's all stored as binary, because that's all that a computer can. That's all that a processor can. What was the word we used last week, Flynn, which was much better? We got rid of the word understand, and we said, remind me, because I can't remember, but you came up with a better word. So the idea that sample rate is measured in hertz, and that duration, how many seconds of audio the file contains, will also have an impact on the size of the file, okay? Interpret, that's what he came up with. Outstanding. Interpret's a better word. I mean, OCR used the word understand, but it's a bit annoying because computers don't understand anything, do they? So common scenarios where compression will be needed, and that kind of common scenario that they like is where they're going to get you to demonstrate that you understand that you can use lossy compression really effectively on images and on video, but you can't use it on text because text needs to be as it was written. And so, for example, if you try converting a program using lossy compression, the text in a program, if you lose anything from that program, it stops working. So therefore, there are certain scenarios where you would use lossy and certain scenarios where you would use lossless. And the ability to carry out specific compression algorithm, no, you don't need to know that. Effects on the file for each type of compression and the advantages and disadvantages. So that's what we'll get into today. And I fancy they're going to do something quite big on this. I've said a 5-minute teach. That could be slightly euphemistic. I reckon it'll be more like 10. We're at 37. I'm always at 36 or 37 at this point in the live stream. So first starter is, why do you need compression? The need for compression. We know that file sizes can get large, especially images and especially video, but sound as well. And of course, video files contain sound as well. So because video files are lots and lots and lots of still images that are run together at least 24 frames a second to give that appearance of movement, and then you're adding sound to it as well. Okay, so when you buy a computer or you buy a phone, you pay more for storage. So storage capacity may be limited. It may be limited in the device that you've bought anyway. So if you're downloading, files, the smaller the download, the better, because it can take too long and it requires higher bandwidth. And there may be email file size restrictions. So if you have a free email account, it's usually, the file sizes are usually restricted to 5 or 10 meg. And to be honest with you, once you go over about 10, 15 meg, even one that you pay for groans quite a lot. And that's where you would use FTP, File Transfer Protocol. Remember, that's one of those protocols that you need to learn, as well as SMTP and POP and IMAP. Those are the mail protocols. And HTTP, HTTPS, and you've got FTP. So that's what you'd use, File Transfer Protocol. If you build a website, you'd be using FTP, something like CyberDuck or something similar, okay? So compression can help you to reduce the file size, and there are 2 types of compression. So that's why we have them, because it's desirable in terms of the capacity that you have, and also you get faster downloads. So we've got 2 types. We've got 2 flavors. We have lossy and we have lossless. Well, I'm sure that you can see enough on those 2 pictures of that iguana at the bottom there that the original is sharper than the lossy one, which is less sharp. It's more blurry because it's the quality of the image isn't quite so good. So here's the definition that you need to know. Lossy compression is where some data is permanently removed or taken away in order to make the file smaller. Okay. However, the quality is still good enough, because you can actually chuck away an awful lot of the data. So some of the data that's not noticeable, that's less noticeable, is removed, but the quality is still good enough for the purpose that it's intended. And I guess that sentence there is the second mark, if they're asking you about the benefits of lossy, is that some data is permanently removed to make the file smaller, but it has minimal impact because the image or the sound is still good enough quality. So say like MP3 is a good example of the lossy format for sound. Apple used the AAC format for their, I mean, they also have a lossless format, but of course the file sizes are much bigger. MP4, MPEG and JPEG, Joint Photographics Experts Group, that's the image there, and everyone's heard of JPEGs because it's the most commonly used one, and the file size. So if you shoot on a sort of proper camera, or even on your phone actually, you can choose whether you have the image RAW, which is that it records everything that the image contains every piece of data the sensor records, or you can use a lossy format like JPEG. When I first got my new shiny iPhone, I thought, oh no, I'll record everything in the highest possible format. And you look at the file sizes and think, maybe not, because you don't get much benefit from it. But it depends. If you're looking to print things the size of HMS Bismarck, then obviously you want that. You know, if you're a pro who's trying to make really high quality, high IBM, how are you doing? Apple RAW. Yeah, Apple RAW takes a huge amount of space. If you shoot on GoPro RAW, it's absolutely massive, the file size. It's extraordinary. I mean, think about the file size of these of sort of 8K, 16K video. It's insane. You need to go and buy a new hard drive straight away. And of course, magnetic hard drive won't do because it can't keep up. So you end up needing a sort of a really powerful solid state one, which is just hugely expensive. So that's your lossy, okay? Takes away information that you don't need. Then we've got lossless. So for some files, losing any information is simply not possible. And for those files, we need to use lossless compression. So lossless compression works by reducing the file size temporarily. WinZip is an example of lossless compression. So say, for example, if you want to store or archive some files, or you want to send them across a network, you might save some space by using lossless. Lossless doesn't tend to reduce the files by as much. That's dreadful English. The file size reduction tends to be less with lossless than with lossy. There we go. That's better English. So it involves storing enough data and information to be able to recreate or to reconstruct the original file. So lossless involves losing no data. But the impact of that is that you don't save as much space, and you need to recreate it. So you need to unzip it, unarchive it, and different software applications use different phrases for this. But fundamentally, you put it into its reduced format, and then when you need it, you've got to recreate it and then use it. So you've got that step to do as well. So it's not terribly convenient to use. So that is. Have I got anything else I want to say on that? So yeah, so just bear in mind with lossless that you would use lossless on things like text files. That would work well for text files. Lossy works really well for video, it works really well for images, and it works really well for sound. So they might well try and get you to explain why why reducing file size is beneficial. And you could talk about streaming. You could talk about downloading, you could talk about sending, using email, and they may well try and give you a scenario. We were doing a past paper question today, can you remember? Let me get to MAD first of all. So they use lossless for pirated, repacked games as well. Do they? Okay. Yeah, and of course that makes sense because with a game, you can't chuck away any of that data. If you chuck away, and yes, do you know what, a game's a good example. But because the example tend to be quite fuddy-duddy, they look at text as being the example because you can't chuck away, I shouldn't say chuck away, you can't delete anything from a text file because if you do, the thing stops making sense. You can't take Lord of the Rings and delete pages 25, 36 and 42 because suddenly the whole thing makes no sense at all. So the game thing, right? Yeah, the game thing's a really good point. It needs to be as is. So yeah, right, going back a step, we did a past paper question today where it was, I think it was Alicia again, who he's always struck me as very honourable, but I could well be wrong. where they were talking about a scenario involving it was whether Alicia needed optical or solid state storage, I think it was, and it was an 8-mark question, and that first part of the mark scheme looked just like the legal, ethical, moral, what's the last one, environmental question, whereby the first bit said that you need to refer it back to the scenario. So if you get one of these 6 8-mark questions for lossy, lossless, don't just reel off this stuff here about, some data, about saying some data is permanently removed to make the file smaller, and then for the lossy side say that no information is permanently taken away, but it's compressed, but then needs to be uncompressed in order to be used. Try and reference it back to the actual scenario. So if it's Alicia who wants to send something via email, if it's somebody who wants to stream something, talk about the bandwidth, talk about the length of time that it takes. So make sure you're thinking about the scenario, especially for those 8-mark questions, definitely, and possibly the 6-mark questions. And the sort of giveaway is when the story they tell you is very long and tedious and boring, and you think, why are they telling me all of this? So it's because they want you to take the information that you understand, but actually apply it to that scenario, because that is, I think I've talked before about Bloom's taxonomy, where sort of you've got understanding at the bottom of the pyramid, but then right up at the top, it's about taking the information that you've got and being able to apply it in new scenarios, okay? So that's what they're looking for in those types of questions. So that's really all that you need for lossy and lossless. There are a couple more bits and pieces, but I think really that is the main part that you need to do it. Yes, they do. It was Alicia for quite a few times. There must be someone called Alicia they know who knows nothing about computer science at all, because she always seems to be the fall girl. Alicia wants to buy a new computer, but she can't spell her own name. How can you help her? Those sorts of scenarios. But anyway, let's not pick on Alicia, although it is quite good fun. So let's have a look. We've got quiz time. I reckon I'm going to finish a bit early today. What is compression? Does it A, minimises with a Z? I apologise for the Americanization there, Americanism. Does it minimise the time taken for a file to be downloaded? Does it convert one file to that? Does it reduce the size of data to save space? Aditya has jumped in with a C straight away. I should give a ding. There we go, there's a ding. Which is, of course, let's have a look. We've got Hash Brown. Hi, Hash Brown, how you doing? He's come in with a C. We've got Elvin has come in with a C. We've got Bogdan with a C. We've got Flynn with a C. We've got Sharjeev with a C. Hi, Emily May. Thanks for coming with a C. We've got IBM with a C. We've got Emad with a C. Well, yes, you are all, of course, absolutely spot on. The answer is C, even if my beautiful bald head's in the way. There we go. Right. What's next? Come on. All I've got to do is click a button. Right, what does lossy compression do to files? Does it A, eliminate unnecessary information in a file to reduce the file size? Does it B, decrease the file size and keeps the same quality? Does it C, increases the file size and gets the same quality? Or D, eliminates no information at all? What do we think? Bogdan has come straight in with an A, as has Aditya, as has Elvin, as has Sharjeev. There's no flies on you guys, is there? As has Emily May, and as has Emad. Well, okay. I think that's pretty. Pretty much the case. Good, outstanding. Right, ding, ding, ding. We're all sorted with that. And Hash Brown, 6 months later with an A. Good man. Absolutely spot on. That's exactly what it is. Okay. 2 types of compression are lossy and lossless. Now, don't say I don't treat you. Ibby's come in with an E. I challenge you with that one. So this one, 2 types of compression are lossy and lossless. State which type of compression is most appropriate for each of the following and explain why it's appropriate. And this is the example that I've kind of been signposting for about half a month here. Downloading the source code of a large program, type of compression and explanation. So Aditya is saying lossless. Now, how can you put into human words, as opposed to iguana words, what the explanation for that would be? Okay, because we've talked about, as Emad mentioned, a large program could be a game, couldn't it? So you're going to use lossless for that. But what human words, what sentence can you use to get that second mark here? Because they want the explanation, and they might even be after two things. Ooh, what has Aditya got here? He's saying, if some code, there we go. If some code is lost, the software might not work in the right way. The types of compression, Ibby, are lossy and lossless. So the lossy one means that some data is thrown away. But the quality of the image or the sound or whatever or the video is not hugely adversely impacted, if that makes sense. So it's still usable. Like MP3 is lossy, and lossless is where you make it smaller temporarily to store it or to send it, and then you need to decompress it or to unarchive it to make it back to its original size. Okay, hang on. Emad's coming with something. What's he saying? Lossless, as you need the data, otherwise the program will run as missing. I'm in the way. Whoop. As missing necessary code. I like that. That's a good answer. Am I back? Am I back? Yeah. Okay. Am I back in the room? I hope I am. Just let me know in the comments. Have I come back? Hopefully in 3 seconds time. Yes. Okay. So the moral of the story is when you try to press the ding button, don't mute yourself. So there we go. Yay, back in the room. What was I saying? I think my wisdom that was lost here was that when you get one of these questions, look and see how many marks it is, okay? And then if it's 2 or 3 marks, just put your pen down and think, okay, what's the second or third mark for it, okay? Because if it is a 2-mark question, then they're going to look for 2 distinct things. If it's 3, they're going to look for 3 distinct things. I know Flynn asked a good question about this past paper question we did today, when it was an 8-marker. And really, they'd listed 4 things. They'd listed 4 characteristics of storage, and it was durability, it was cost, portability, and something else. You know, that list that you've got, and they'd said talk about it in terms of solid state and talk about it in terms of optical, so CD or DVD, and you had to riff between those 4 ideas plus the 2 different media, and so 4 times 2. That was your mark there. Okay. Back in the room. So a fun round of Guess the Question. Lossless compression, the code. Oh, well, that was exactly the one we just did. So this was the answer to the question. Lossless compression, you were all quite right. And from the mark scheme, the code has to be exactly as it was originally written for your first mark, or else it won't work for the second. And I think you all got that second mark. All right. So just be a little bit aware of that. Okay, and obviously this one's going to be quite straightforward. 2 types of compression are lossy and lossless. State which type of compression is most appropriate for each of the following and explain why it's appropriate. Streaming a large video file. Now, they may well tie this up with somebody's name and talk about how they want to send it. So, for example, they had an example of someone who was sending a sound file to someone they were applying for a job with. Again, a terrible sentence, but I think that was something like that. So you could have talked about sending it via email. So what about this one? Aditya has come in with the correct answer, so that's the easy part. So even if some data is removed, you can still see the video. Okay, I like the first part of your answer. Ibby, you are spot on. You get a ding, and I shan't mute myself this time. What about the second part of Aditya's answer is as clumsy as some of the sentences that I've thrown out today. What about this? Bogdan, lossy, which is a ding. Unrequited data, unrequired, I'm guessing this is, unrequired data can be removed as it'll be unnoticeable to human eye. Moreover, ooh, going for the big guns here. Moreover, oh, let's get it back. I like that one. Hang on. Moreover, file size reduces, so storage is saved. Ooh, you've got several marks there. Let's give him a big ding for that. So that is better. Emad says lossy, which is a ding. There we go. As the server needs to store the video, and if it's lossless, they get too much storage space on the server, and it will be bad. Have you just said it will be bad? Oh, I'm going to press an Emad bad button. Don't say things like it will be bad. You're a computer scientist, not a someone who says the word bad randomly. Okay, so Bogdan's answer, their first part, Emad, good, and it will be bad. So you can talk about the quality will be lower, but it's still, the quality is still acceptable. Okay, yes, we got there. Unrequired. I thought unrequited was, I think, save that for your English literature exam. Okay, so that's good. And the answer was lossy compression achieves higher compression, smaller file size, faster streaming. So that's something else you can move into your answer. Video can still be viewed at lower quality. All right, so think about how you can voice those. Yeah, I know. It just sort of it sort of petered out towards the end. But just get that idea. If it's 2 or 3 marks, think about what you need to say. Okay, I'll get a move on. I've got some more of these. Not that one. Here we go. What type of compression would you use to compress a video? This is easy. What would it be? Indeed. What type of compression would you use to compress a video? Bam, bam, bam. It is A. I'm going to push straight on. It is A. Aditya is spot on. Let's give them the ding. Ding! Yes, you're spot on, Ibby. It is lossy. Elvin spot on. So's Emad. You're all nailing it. Okay, let me push on and I'll get up your answers. Hash Brown said A. It is that one. Okay, what have we got here? This one. Come on. This one. What type of compression would you use? A text file? I think I've done this one absolutely to death. I think Flynn's come straight in with the answer. I think they were both A, weren't they? This one's easy, isn't it? Yeah, it is exactly the same thing. A. Yeah, there we go. Let's push on again. Get through as many as we can. Which of these are not usually in a compressed format? Yeah, by the way, that was right. By the way, that was right. And so was that. And so was that. Which of the following are not usually in a compressed format? Interesting to see what you get with this one. What do you think? Aditya is saying C, MP4. Is he right? What do we think? MP4, is that compressed? JPEG, we've talked about JPEG a bit earlier on today. 3 minutes left. I've got a few more questions. Aditya's saying C. Emad saying B. Ooh, we have a divergence. We have different opinions. Any more takers? Elvin thinks C. Ibby's saying C. Any more for any more? Aditya is saying B. Oh, well, okay. Shall we see what it is? And Ibby's saying B. Okay. Covering all bases, Ibby, I notice. So it is in fact B. Bitmap is isn't usually compressed. Okay, all the rest are. I mean, you probably recognise JPEG and certainly MP4 because that's quite widely used. MPEG is a sort of it's another video codec. It's another way of compressing video. Okay. All right. Uncompressed audio and video files require less memory than compressed files. True or false? What do we think, ladies and gentlemen? Uncompressed audio and video files require less memory than compressed files. What do we think? A, false. B, true. Aditya thinks A, it's false. Bogdan saying A. And Aditya has got many things, including the A. It's an A star. Ibby's gone for C. Hedging your bets there. So the answer is it's false because they're bigger, they're larger, aren't they? What is lossless compression? So Emad, you were spot on. There we go. Emad, that's my last answer. What is lossless compression? Easy for me to say. Compression that involves an algorithm. There is no loss in information at all after compression. Files will have the exact same data after compression. So we've got Aditya came in with B. I'm going to push on because Aditya's come in with C. Ibby's come in with B. And Emma's come in with B. And Elvin's coming with B. All right, so let's... The answer is, of course, B. Emma's coming with C. Okay, there's no loss in... So with lossless compression, there's no loss in information at all after compression. Revision ideas. Well, this is exciting. So this is what I would have said to you several months ago. Conversions with sound, image, and text files. The ASCII versus Unicode. That is definitely going to be there. Be confident on definitions. So make sure you're really happy with what bit depth, sample rate, color depth, and resolution are. I reckon they're going to nail that in the exam. I think I put revised registers of the CPU on there because they are, because don't forget they've taken away a couple of those early topics. So I reckon they're going to go pretty heavy on register of the CPU. The retrospective revision planner, if you haven't had a look through it, use it to go. Do you remember that spreadsheet I sent you all that's got the entire specification on it? Even if you've not opened it so far, go through it and just see which ones you're happy with and focus on the ones that you are more concerned about. And don't forget that somewhere in your Satchel 1 pile of stuff, you've got a PDF from me of what is and what isn't in the exam. Because there'll be nothing more daft than spending time revising stuff that you don't need to. Apart from that, apart from the threats one, where you still need to know what these things are. Guys, you are amazing. I shall allow you to beast each other off air. So I'll see you for one more time next week for the grand quiz, the grand finale, where we'll just go through a few things. Any questions you've got, any last minute help, any issues or queries you've got, bring them to next week's session and we'll have a go. Guys, have a lovely Tuesday evening. I will see you all in a week's time. Bye bye.